Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm your host, Sean Holko, alongside my guy, Mr. Kevin Dent. The podfather, Jaevon Toddy, will be unable to join us tonight as he's out working right now, but we are back for another episode a little later in the week. We're here with you on a Thursday night, right after Week 8 just begun in the NFL as the Chargers beat the brakes off of the Vikings, and Kevin's former boy, Carson Wentz, who got absolutely abused tonight by the Chargers, as I was saying to Kevin before we got started here tonight. But we are here tonight on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics, Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, to chat about Week 7 in the NFL. Mr. Kevin Dent, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Can't complain. Eagles are finally back in the win column after 2 weeks. It's been a long 2 weeks. A lot of people were asking where I was at last week. It just didn't work out. But, I'm back. And I don't only show up after Eagles W. So if you guys know anything about this podcast, we show up, win, lose, tie. Unfortunately, or not fortunately, I guess, none of us have ever had to experience a tie. If we tied, I don't think I'd show up. I'd be so embarrassed to tie. I know there's a lot of people out there that think tying is cool. I think that shit is horrible for the sport. I know there's a lot of baseball players out here. They'll go inning after inning after inning. Like, there has to be a winner. We don't pay these guys millions of dollars to tie. And I get it. The longer the game, it's football. It's a lot more physical. But ties are horrible for the sport. I don't know how you feel about it, Shaun, but I hate ties.
I completely agree. Ties should not be a thing. Like, soccer is not one of my top 3 favorite sports. I wouldn't even go as far to say top 4 or top 5. It's my lady's favorite sport. It's my brother's favorite sport, not mine. I played soccer for 5 years as a kid, and I gravitated towards basketball, and I never looked back. And one of the things that just always icked me about soccer is the fact that you could play 90 minutes and end up with a 0-0 draw. Like, how anticlimactic is that? Yeah, the players put their bodies on the line. They gave everything they possibly could. But to end in a scoreless draw, I imagine a baseball game ending that way. Like, it just doesn't happen because, as you said, it goes on into extra innings, and they implemented a new rule like 6 years ago during COVID where they put a runner on second base in extra innings just to expedite the game ending and for there to be a decisive winner. But yet in the NFL, somehow, some way, in the regular season, you still end up with a tie. And I wanted to give a shout out to my girlfriend, Allie, because we were watching that Sunday night football game together. And she said to me when the Cowboys and Packers got to the end of the first period of overtime, why did the game just end? Like, I thought it was supposed to go to a second overtime. I was like, no, it's only in the playoffs. And so it's a shame. I completely agree with you, Kevin. And that's why, I didn't even enjoy having the tie on our records at the end of our pick'em, because now we're all going to have whatever and one at the end of the season. And so shout out to the Packers and the Cowboys for that. We appreciate you so much. Not really. As we're getting things started here on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics, Sean Holko alongside Kevin Dent. Before we get started, Kevin, I just wanted to give a shout out to a loyal YouTube listener, Gray Wolf, who it looks like Gray Wolf, you got a new @ name, @graywolf.27. We appreciate you for tuning in. As he says, good evening, gentlemen. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty good. And that's because Gray Wolf is a noted Denver Broncos fan, and we are going to be getting to the Denver Broncos coming up in our second segment of today's episode. An amazing comeback by the Broncos against the Giants, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But before we get there, let's not waste any more time, Kevin. Let's get right into it as the 49ers beat the Falcons on Sunday Night Football 20-10. And the Falcons were coming off of a Monday Night Football win against the vaunted Buffalo Bills. And yet the 49ers get 2 rushing touchdowns from Christian McCaffrey, a couple of clutch field goals from Eddie Pinheiro, who has been absolutely money for the 49ers since he got signed to replace Jake Moody. And the 49ers go on to beat the Falcons 20-10. What were your takeaways from this one, Kevin?
He's also been money for my fantasy team. So I saw him hit it up the first week, and I was like, he's still here. Let me take a chance on him. As a avid 49ers hater, anti-fan, whatever you want to call me. Hats off to you guys. You guys had every reason defensively to go out there and lay down. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. Toddy was telling me you guys have some corners out here, so your secondary is not even healthy. You guys had every reason to go out there and lay down, and you did it. The Atlanta Falcons coming off probably their biggest win of the season, and there's still a lot of season to be played, but be able to beat Buffalo Bills, who a lot of people, none of us on the podcast, unfortunately, said they can go win a Super Bowl. This is one of the best teams in the AFC, so for them to go in there and beat them in their home, like Shaun said, on primetime football in front of the whole world, this is what we expect out of the Falcons. You know, Kirk Cousins came in there and they weren't able to get it done, but you have this young nucleus of guys, and you're expecting them to continue playing. And they went into this game off that high, and you can tell. The 49ers defense, Robert Saleh, completely changed this game. Bijan had his season low and just overall yards finished with 92 yards. Michael Penix, season low completion percentage. They were all over the place with all backups. So with every reason to come in there and lay down with this high octane offense that we've seen in the Atlanta Falcons, for them to come in here and play at that kind of performance, hats off to them. Hats off to them, because we say that the Bills defense has always been mediocre, but to go in there and do that on primetime against Josh Allen, forcing 3 turnovers, doing it on all phases, showed how good this team could be. But with a young team like this, you're worried about them on a short week, and this is why you're worried about them, because they're coming off such a high, and now they're going into the week this week. I don't know who they play, coming off an extreme low. I am concerned for Christian McCaffrey. He is on pace to have 306 rushing attempts, which is a career high. For a guy who has battled injury after injury after injury, for you guys to just be a CMC or bust team, I get it. Ricky Pearsall's out. Brandon Ayuk is still recovering from an injury. George Kittle was a basic no-show in this game. First game back from a hamstring injury, I believe. So this offense is going to have to get the ball rolling. But for CMC, it's CMC or bust at this point. He led the team with rushing attempts with 24 rushing attempts. Shaun mentioned it, 2 touchdowns. He found the end zone last game, or was this week the first rushing touchdown?
I believe that it was this week.
Okay, so for them to go 4 or 5 weeks without a rushing touchdown, for them to get 2, just goes to show how good Christian McCaffrey is. I know a lot of people, we always talk fantasy. I know a lot of guys early weren't really wanting to pick him because they didn't know what they were going to get, coming off of 2 Achilles injuries, and to single-handedly carry this team to a 5-1 record says a lot about Christian McCaffrey. He is Offensive Player of the Year, hands down, because he is single-handedly carrying this team. You could arguably say he's playing for an MVP. Because if you take him off of this team, what is this team? I told you how he led the team in rushing. He also led the team in receiving yards. And not only yards, but receptions, with 7 receptions and 72 receiving yards. This team is playing out of the world. And we talked about the injuries on the defensive end. We talked about Kittle coming back. We talked about Ricky. We talked about not Greg Jennings. Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings.
Third and Jawan.
No Brock Purdy. Mac Jones probably had the worst game as a starter so far. No touchdowns, interception. This team said, we're going to run the fucking football, and we're going to run at a very high level. Trent Williams, it's always been Trent Williams and the other guys. The other guys did their fucking thing, because Trent Williams hasn't been having the best seasons. Everyone can say, the age is probably getting to him, but as a unit, they're playing extremely well. And to have that kind of a run game, Mac Jones has been able to get it going. So coming into this game, you're expecting them to sling it around. Mac Jones had a bad game. They relied on I believe the highest paid player on the team. Bosa might have him beat out, but I think CMC is the highest paid player on your team, and it showed. They said, we're going to give it to CMC every time. And like I said, he is on track to have the most carries in his career. The closest he's come to 306 was in 2023, which was his All-Offensive Player of the Year and Super Bowl appearance. So it showed if you give him the workload, he'll take you to the big dance. So let's just hope, knocking on wood. I love watching him play. So for him to continue this playing style and the way that they're just giving him all these carries, yes, you worry, but you're like, damn, if he can stay healthy, this could be another offensive player of the year. And I'm not going to say Super Bowl appearance, but I'm sure Shaun's going to say, as you guys know. For the audio-only listeners, Shaun has a 23 Christian McCaffrey hat on. And this whole segment, he's just been cheesing cheek to cheek. So I'm sure he's going to come on here and give you guys more Niner stuff, but I wanted to come on here and give respect to where respect is due, because I know a lot of Niner fans and I don't get along very well. But that game, I was the only one who chose the Falcons, because off of the Bills, you would just expect them to come in here and do it again. But Robert Saleh and the band of nobodies came out there and held this team to 10 points.
Hey, well, first of all, salute, Kevin. I appreciate you showing respect where it's due. The 49ers are 5-2 with their third and fourth string players. As Grey Wolf says, 49ers are winning games with third and fourth string players. Congrats to San Fran. We appreciate you for saying that. And yeah, when it comes to Christian McCaffrey, you mentioned the 23 carries, 114 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Then he adds 7 catches for 72 receiving yards. Christian McCaffrey is on pace for 1,093 rushing yards this season and 1,093 rushing yards and 1,252 receiving yards. And then when you look at how he had 100 plus rushing yards and 70 plus receiving yards for the 7th time in his NFL career, he broke a tie with Hall of Famer Marshall Faulk and Priest Holmes for the most such games in NFL history. He just broke a record that was held and shared by 2 Hall of Famers. I think it's safe to say that Christian McCaffrey is a future first ballot Hall of Famer.
Easy.
Am I willing to say that the 49ers are going to go to the Super Bowl this season? No, I'm not ready to say that. I am very encouraged and happy with this 5-2 start, despite all of the injuries that have happened. But the fact that Fred Warner and Nick Bosa are both out for the entire season and there's no shot of either of them coming back, that's where my confidence level tends to dip a bit. I just want to see the 49ers get to the playoffs, and just if they're able to win each week, I'm just going to ride the wave. I'm not going to set myself up with sky-high expectations to be disappointed. I'm going into it pessimistic and just enjoying the ride. But Christian McCaffrey gave us a great game to enjoy on Sunday night, as you and I, as well as Blue, also really enjoyed that game. And so it was great to watch. And we mentioned Eddie Pinheiro, who has been money for your fantasy team. He's been money for a couple of my fantasy teams. He's been money for Jaevon's fantasy team, because Jaevon got him the first week that he was a 49er in our Stats Over Politics Fantasy Football League. And so after that first week, I looked at all 4 of my leagues. Only 3 of them have kickers. But I looked at all 4 of my leagues, and I was like, all right, I don't care who my kicker is. I'm taking this guy. And I looked. I was able to scoop him up in 2 of the leagues, but then the one league I couldn't get him in was Stats Over Politics, because Toddy already got him before I could. He sniped him. And so the thing about Eddie Pinheiro is that he has now set the franchise record for consecutive field goals to start a season with 17, breaking the record that was set by Mr. Reliable, arguably another future Hall of Famer, and Robbie Gould. We don't see a lot of kickers go into the Hall of Fame, but Robbie Gould is one of those guys who is right up there, that if there was going to be a kicker to make it to the Hall of Fame, Robbie Gould is one of those guys. And Eddie Pinheiro just broke the record that Robbie Gould set when he started with the 49ers. And now when it comes to Mac Jones, he earned a $400,000 incentive by winning 4 games as the 49ers starting quarterback this season. He's now 4-1. And so congrats to him getting paid. I'm really happy for him. But Kevin, speaking about Mac Jones, that brings me to an impromptu segment here on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics. This is usually your bag, Kevin, but given what we're talking about, I just have to throw it out there. Fact or cap, Mac Jones is the best quarterback from the 2021 NFL draft class, Kevin.
That's Tua, Trey, Justin.
No. Tua was in 2020. Justin was in 2020. So the 2021 draft class, I'll just help you out here. The 2021 draft class was Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, all went in the first 15
hell
picks.
No. Justin Fields. I mean, not Justin Fields, sorry. Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had a resurgence. I know that it was easy for us to sit here and say Trevor Lawrence stinks, Trevor Lawrence is this, Trevor Lawrence is that. But to be a playoff win, he has a playoff win, something that Justin Herbert doesn't have, something that a lot of guys don't have. Yes, I get it. Mac Jones took the Patriots to the playoffs. The Patriots with the weapons that he did not have. I understand that. But I still think Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback out of there. And you know me, Shaun, I'm a big guy to say Mac Jones is a product of a system, just like Brock Purdy. With all the things going around him, to have a running back that you can hand the ball off 24 times and throw it to him 8 times, it's a pretty good thing to have. Now, besides this game, Mac Jones looked bad. But the other games that he's been starting, he's been throwing for 350 a night. So Mac Jones has been getting it done without the guys. And we saw Brock Purdy in the same position with these same weapons last year when they weren't good, and he couldn't get it done. So I'm not going to sit here and say Mac Jones is the best from the 21 class, but I definitely have him second. I don't know if Shaun is the Justin Fields fan club owner anymore now that he's been benched, but I'm going to have to go Cap on this one.
Well, I will forever and always be the proud president of the Justin Fields fan club, but I am also realistic. I'm unbiased. So posing the question to myself, factor Cap, Mac Jones is the best quarterback from the 2021 draft class. This is Cap. I wish it could be a fact, but I have been pleasantly surprised by Mac Jones, not only this season, specifically this season, but even throughout his first 4 years of his career, because he had that tremendous rookie season when Trey Lance was sitting on the bench behind Jimmy Garoppolo. And I showed the clip 3 weeks ago of my instant reaction from the 2021 NFL draft when the 49ers did not pick Mac Jones. And Kevin, I think you nailed it, that Mac Jones has proven to this point that he is the second best quarterback from the 2021 draft class. And he is making a case for himself that he could eventually become the best from the 2021 NFL draft class. But this is still Brock Purdy's team. Mac Jones will likely have a chance to go be a starter elsewhere starting next season, just like Sam Darnold did after 1 year with the 49ers. And so Mac Jones has a chance to be the best quarterback eventually from this draft class. But as of right now, October 23rd, 2025, this is Cap. Mac Jones is not the best, or Mac Jones is the best quarterback from the 2021 draft class. This is Cap. And the reason why I say that this is Cap as well is something else that you hit on is when you look at the winning percentage, when a QB1 is injured since 2022, Kyle Shanahan is 17-7 and has won 71% of his games with his quarterback one injured. 71%. That is just an insane statistic. And it's with a large sample size too. It's not like it's with 5 games or whatever. 24 games, and he has a 71% winning percentage. Then you look at the next closest, Zach Taylor is 5-7, 42%. Sean McVay, 3-8, 27%. John Harbaugh, 2-6, 25%. And so Kyle Shanahan is the guy. Kyle Shanahan is the answer. And so therefore it's Cap. Mac Jones is he
the guy?
Yes, he is.
The guy that gets
forever
to the finish line and says it's all on you. I mean, we all remember 28-3. We all remember the guy who didn't know the overtime rules. So I get it. It's great to say he's the guy, but the guy gets it across the finish line. He just gets you there.
Well, we will have to wait and see because he's run into the Chiefs twice and the GOAT when he's reached the Super Bowl as a head coach twice and as an offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. And so we shall see. I believe in Kyle Shanahan. He's a top 5 coach in the NFL. And so I'm a believer in Kyle Shanahan, and I believe that he will win the 49ers a Super Bowl eventually. I'm a believer. There's no better guy out there to replace him. And so therefore, I'm riding with Kyle Shanahan until the wheels fall off. As we keep things moving here on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics, Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent. I want to give a shout out to our guy Kaz Johnson of Just Casually, who says, still handling some business, but got you playing in the back. We appreciate you for tuning in on Twitch, Kaz. As now I just want to get to a couple of other comments on YouTube as Uncle Manny says, hello, guys. It looks like in the last week, YouTube has changed the format to where it put your first name as the title to the @name. And so shout out to Uncle Manny's twins, Hunter and Hayden, and the show that they've established on his YouTube channel. But also, as Grey Wolf points out, CMC is currently number 8 on the receiving list. He's also on pace for 1,000 rushing and receiving yards, as I noted earlier. And so, yeah, it is insane that you see all these wide receivers. There's Christian McCaffrey right there as one of the top pass catchers in the NFL. Doesn't matter what his position is. He is up there as not only one of the best running backs in the NFL, but he is one of the best players, period. And that includes being a pass catcher. And, if you even look back to his days at Stanford, he was returning punts. He was returning kicks. And I think of that iconic punt return for a touchdown that he had in the Rose Bowl against Iowa. I've been a fan of Christian McCaffrey since his freshman year at Stanford, and I'm just so happy to have him as a member of my favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers. As you see me rocking the hat right now, this is a hat that my mom got me for Christmas 3 to 4 years ago, and I wear it proudly. Kevin, I thank you for shouting it out earlier regarding my headwear today, but after Sunday night's game, this hat had to be displayed on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics. And Kaz also says on Twitch, CMC sneakily might be an MVP talk in 3 to 4 weeks. Oh boy. I sure hope that's the case, because MVP, as we know, has basically become a quarterback award. And then whichever skill position player is the best offensive player gets offensive player of the year. Doesn't matter what their statistics is. MVP has gone to a quarterback over the last 15 years. I think Adrian Peterson in 2012 was the last non-quarterback to win the MVP. So if CMC could sneak into that conversation, I think it would be not only well-deserved, but obviously as a 49ers and Stanford fan, I would just be absolutely over the moon if that ended up being the case. But we shall wait and see. As Kaz alluded to, it might be the case in a month. But for right now, Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers are at 5-2, despite all the injuries. And one final thing that I wanted to say from this game, Kevin, is that you mentioned George Kittle. George Kittle, yeah, if you're just looking at his box score, if you're just looking at his fantasy points, and George even apologized to his fantasy owners after the game. But if you're just looking at that, it's like, oh yeah, George Kittle was invisible. He was a ghost. He was just out there getting cardio in. But George Kittle is as big of a reason for Christian McCaffrey's big night as Kyle Juszczyk is, as Trent Williams is. Like, we always talk about Trent Williams and the other guys. Before you mention any of those other offensive linemen, you got to put Kyle Juszczyk in that discussion and George Kittle. And that's another reason why re-signing Kyle Juszczyk in this offseason was such a huge move for the 49ers after they initially released him. And I am beyond happy to have him back in the red and gold, staying where he belongs. And, his wife, Kristen Juszczyk, she's also quite talented as well. And so shout out to the entire Juszczyk family. And the 49ers are 5-2. And so I am quite happy about that as we keep things moving here on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics. Sean Holko alongside Kevin Dent. All right, Kevin, now let's get to Grey Wolf's favorite team, which is the Denver Broncos, who on Sunday, they honored the late, great wide receiver Demaryius Thomas as he was inducted into the Broncos Hall of Fame. And it was looking initially like it was a bit of an embarrassment, to be honest, for the Thomas family, given how that game went. And if you just look at the box score, the Giants were up 19-0 after 3 quarters. And then you look at that handy-dandy box score, the Broncos outscored the Giants 33-13 in the fourth quarter. All 33 points in 15 minutes of game action. That is just absolutely insane. But the Broncos came back to win this one. Jackson Dart, he had a key turnover late in this game, tried to make up for it by driving the Giants down the field for a touchdown. But the Giants kicker, I think his name is Makatemi, he is honestly forgettable, but he has since been released by the Giants because he became the first kicker in the last 40 years, according to Adam Schefter, to miss 2 point-after tries in a game in which his team lost by 1 point. So the kicker lost the Giants this game, but ultimately the Giants as a whole crumble, and it was a tremendous win for the Denver Broncos as they pull out the 33-32 win. And I am personally a believer, Kevin. I'm not sure about you, but I just felt like with a game like that Demaryius Thomas was looking down from above, and he just sent the Broncos a blessing in that game, and they were able to honor him in the way that he deserved. And, it It was very poetic, and it was a storybook ending to a regular season game from week 7. But just how did you react to the Broncos beating the Giants 33-32?
We just talked about the Falcons coming off a team where you beat the Bills, a Super Bowl contender that a lot of people think they can win a Super Bowl. The Giants are right there with them. They come off a Thursday night W, beating the dog shit out of the Eagles, 34-17. They're feeling as great as ever going into the bye week, and then you come out here, like Shaun mentioned, 19-0 3 quarters. I turned this game off. I was like, there's no way. I now have to hear that Jackson Dart beat the Broncos, the team that beat us. So now he's got to be better than Jalen Hurts, right? I was expecting to hear it. I just wanted to turn it off. And then I get a notification because I have Cortland Sutton is like, they're in the red zone. They're in the red zone. They're in the red zone. I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I turned it on. I'm like, dude, there's no way. And they just come back. And we talked about the Falcons riding that high after beating a great team. The Giants battled back and said, we're going to double down. No one's counting us to win this game. 19-0 in the fourth. We're going to run this clock out, and we're going to win this game. Sean Payton for 3 quarters was calling bullshit. Everyone wants to say that Bo Nix is this, Bo Nix is that. He's an offensive coordinator, made quarterback. He's a system quarterback. For him to go out there and throw for 27-40, 279 touchdowns, 2 yards, and 2 touchdowns, ran it for 5 times for 48 yards. Bo Nix put this team on his back, and it took everybody. It took Cortland Sutton, Evan Ingram, Marvin Mims. This team couldn't get the run going. We always talk about how teams are won in the trenches. And this Giants offensive line, as an Eagles fan, I have to admit, is pretty fucking solid. You got Dexter Lawrence. You got Brian Burns, who leads the NFL in sacks. You got the rookie out of Penn State, Abdul Carter. Kevon Thibodeau. They got the guys. But this Broncos defense shut them down in the fourth quarter. Shaun mentioned they were outscored, 33-16? You said they were outscored
33-13. Apologize for the delay. I had myself muted.
No, you're all good. 33-13 for them to come out there and have that kind of performance, led by Defensive Player of the Year, Pat Surtain. Cam Scatterbo, Sacramento legend, has been hitting his helmet on the goalpost all the time. And they told him this game, like, you're not going to do that. And if it wasn't for a magical Theo Johnson touchdown, you take one of the touchdowns off the board. Cam Scatterbo was not able to rush for 100 yards. He's been a bell cow back game after game after game. And they might have shown the world that you can stop Cam Scatterbo. If you would have asked me past couple of weeks, I don't think no one could, because you don't really see a lot of bell cow power backs. Just imagine a David Montgomery getting every touch. But another player that has to come out here and give credit to where credit is due is Jackson Dart. I was a big guy that said the Giants need a quarterback. Please, God, no. Please do not take Shedeur Sanders. And what do? They said, Kevin, watch this. You're worried about Shedeur Sanders? We're bringing Jackson Dart in here, and when you guys come into MetLife, we're going to beat you guys. So Jackson Dart, hats off to you. 15-33, 283, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Jackson Dart is the quarterback of the future. This Giants team is coming into this game. Brian Daboll got an extra couple of weeks. But after a game like this, after a meltdown like this, beating up 19 points in the NFL on the road, you have to get this young team under control and get them to figure this out. Yes, they're missing Malik Neighbors, but this team has a lot of juice. They have a lot of hype around them right now. And I don't want to look too far into the future, but he's already talking about playing the villain role going into Lincoln Financial. So maybe this loss is going to be good for him, because when he's taken helm, they were playing really well. I lost to the Saints, but they did beat the Chargers. So coming into this game with 3 games under his belt, 2-1, this team was feeling phenomenal. So a loss like this is definitely going to hurt, but it could propel them, not this week, but maybe next week, to get another W. And the more they win and the more Jackson Dart shows flashes without a guy like Malik Neighbors, Brian Daboll gets to sleep better one extra week, because before this, it was talking about him getting fired. This was his last year to kind of show it, but Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo are bringing a different energy to New York that they've been missing. So hats off to them. Horrible way to lose a game. Horrible way to lose a game. But the Broncos are a playoff team, and we now have to talk to them with that kind of respect because of what they did last year with a rookie quarterback. No one would have expected them to make the playoffs last year, but this team is figuring it out, and they're a defensive-minded team. They don't need the weapons. They have J.K. Dobbins back there. There's only probably 2 people in the world that think J.K. Dobbins can still do it, and it's me and Shaun. Being an Ohio State running back, every year he gets hurt, so everyone's just been kind of throwing him to the side, but he's been able to be consistent. This game, we couldn't get it going, and it was also a negative game script because they had to just throw the ball. But the Broncos are solid, man, especially with the Chiefs kind of rolling right now. The Chargers got the W tonight. It's going to be if it's not the NFC West, it's the AFC West with the best team in the conference, best team NFL conference. It just depends on if you think the Cardinals are better than the Raiders. And at this point, you kind of got to say if they play today, I don't know who the fuck I'd pick because they're both very, very bad. But the top 3 teams in both divisions are playing very well. And it's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on the question that you just posed, but I just have to interject my opinion. If Kyler Murray is playing with Marvin Harrison Jr., OH?
IL.
If Kyler Murray is playing with Marvin Harrison Jr., then I would take the Cardinals against the Raiders in that hypothetical matchup. If it's Jacoby Brissett out there, and Jacoby Brissett is still a solid backup, but if it's Jacoby Brissett versus the Raiders, then I'd lean towards the Raiders in that situation. But that's a shit show at the bottom of each division regardless. The Cardinals started 2-0, and they have proceeded to lose 5 games in a row. And so they're tanking the overall strength of the division, but the NFC West is proving that it is still one of the best divisions in football, just as much as the AFC West has. And I just wanted to get to a couple of Instagram comments real quickly as our guy Jaevon, the Podfather, says, not the OSU hoodie. And we were just talking about the Ohio State University, but that's not the OSU hoodie that Kevin is rocking. Do you have a response to Jaevon's Beavers comment, Kevin?
Man, I married into the gang. So I got to rep it. Alyssa's uncle is on the staff, so it's not a great season for us, but he blessed me enough with a bunch of gear, so I'm going to wear it proudly. 1-6, and the game came with Malik Murphy on the bench, so I am going to the game, not this week when I buy, but next week I'm going to the game, so I'll be on the sideline, and hopefully I'm there for another W, but yeah, got to rep.
That's awesome. And I see those orange and white. Are those Jordan 1 lows behind you, the orange and white shoes? Okay, gotcha. But, I mean, those are perfect to wear with any Beaver merch that you got. And Terrence G says on Instagram, following the Vikings getting absolutely throttled against the Chargers on Thursday Night Football, Terrence G says, Vikings Super Bowl champs 2035. Yeah,
how many
that's.
Do you know, Shaun? I only know 2. I know Terrence and I know Wes. I don't really know. There's not that many confident Viking fans that are coming out here saying something like this. But Terrence is a day one believer. Him and Wes are the only diehards I know.
Yeah, Wes is the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. I feel like I know another Vikings fan somewhere at some point, and I haven't even met Wes in person. I just know him from the podcast and him being a close friend of yours and talking so much shit when it comes to all things Minnesota sports. And so he's the only one who I can think of off the top of my head. So shout out to the Vikings fans out there, especially those of you who live on the West Coast. A couple final things that I wanted to mention about the Broncos beating the Giants 33-32 is that dating back to last season, the Broncos have the longest home winning streak in the NFL and have won 8 in a row at Mile High. And so that's an impressive accomplishment in itself. And then spinning it forward when it comes to the Broncos being the winning team from this past weekend, the Broncos play another NFC East team coming up this Sunday, and they will be playing the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys have not beaten the Broncos since 1995. We hear a lot about 1995 when it comes to the Cowboys, but that's the last time that the Cowboys beat the Broncos, and they have not won a game in Denver, since 1992. And they are 2-7 against the Broncos since 1992.
Not like in general.
1995 is the last time that they beat them in general, and then 1992 was the last time that they won in Denver. So it's been 30 years since the Cowboys have beat the Denver Broncos, which is that's just a crazy, like, random stat, but it's a fact. And
And it's
the
like,
other
you think
thing,
about those Broncos teams, like it's really only been like that Peyton Manning era for a little bit, and then besides that, it was like Tim Tebow and couldn't tell you. But
so
it's the
random.
Cowboys, and if they're gonna find a way to lose, god damn it, they will.
Exactly. And one final thing. This comes from Ed Werder, who is a noted NFL reporter. He says the Broncos and the Bills are the only opponents Dak Prescott has played multiple times against without winning. The Broncos have won 2 games against him by a combined 72-33. Dak says, we've got to go into this game looking to win dirty. This is one I definitely want to cross off. So there's the Dallas Cowboys signal caller and his thoughts going into
Broncos country. Let's ride.
Let's ride. Yes, sir. And you just reminded me of one final thing. If you haven't seen the exchange between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson from this past weekend, just look it up, because Sean Payton threw some shade again at Russell Wilson after the Giants game, and then Russell Wilson responded accordingly on X, formerly known as Twitter. So I'll leave it there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's worth just Googling. Trust me. As we keep things moving here on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics, Sean Holko alongside Kevin Dent. Kevin, it's time to get to our last game that we're going to break down in depth, and we're back to your squad. Fly, Eagles, fly, the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions. As you alluded to earlier, the Eagles got back on a winning track with a 28-22 win against the Vikings in week 7. We just saw the Vikings lose to the Chargers, so they're on a bit of a skid. But before they got to Los Angeles, they lost to the Eagles 28-22. What were your takeaways from this one?
This was a hard one to watch. I currently own 3 Carson Wentz jerseys. I have 1 Stitch jersey, and it is a Carson Wentz jersey. There's a lot of love that Carson Wentz has for us. He said post-game or the day before the game, I don't know a lot of those guys anymore. Like, it's a whole different staff. There's a lot of different guys on there. So the relationships aren't really there anymore. But to say that, you could say that he still played for the Eagles on Sunday, throwing 2 picks. This game was a bounce-back game that we needed. Coming off of a game where we just talked about the Broncos. We were up big, and they had a fourth quarter comeback, just like they did against the Giants. Not as big of a lead, but they came back. And then for us to go and get our ass kicked 4 days later in MetLife, coming in this game, 10 days of rest, this is exactly the performance I was expecting. Jalen Hurts, only one quarterback to have perfect passer rating, and it was Jalen Hurts. We heard a lot of shit said about Jalen Hurts after that Giants game. He can't throw. He's throwing interceptions. Jalen Hurts is not that guy. Sean, when I tell you, well, when the Eagles lose, I am getting shit from Cowboys fans, from Niner fans, from Saints fans, everybody.
You're under attack.
I lost it last week or 10 days ago, that Thursday. And everyone's just sitting there. They're eating me out. They're eating me in. And then I say something, and all I can send is a picture of the ring. And they go, oh, we all know Kevin. He's upset. He's just going back to the ring. And it's just like, damn, like, people have been waiting 20-plus games to get on me. It's like when they're getting on me, like, I haven't felt this in a while. So when they come hard. And it's like, it was 2 words that I said probably 100 times that day. I was like, there's a lot of Michael Phelps in the chat, a lot of swimmers. With the last team the Niners won, there's a lot of people in the group chat that were swimming around. They didn't even watch with their own 2 eyes. They were swimming around in their dad's nutsack, and they were screaming at me. But, Michael Phelps. So we have a lot of those. But getting back to the game, this was a game we needed. We need to get our guys the ball. I know everyone sends me the tweets. Toddy sends it to me every day. A.J. Brown said this. A.J. Brown said that. For him to come out there and go for 121 with 2 touchdowns, one of them being the game sealer, at cherry on top. And then we were finally able to connect with Smitty down the field for 79 yards, the longest touchdown of his career, to go along with 9 catches for 183 yards and a touchdown, like I mentioned. This offense is getting clicking. The Eagles play so much better after a loss. So it's nice to know that our team is able to bounce back. Jalen Hurts, like I said, only quarterback in NFL this season have a perfect passer rating. But all these great things I'm saying about this offense, I have to get on here and say we have to figure out this fucking run game. For the past 4 or 5 years, you look up best offensive lines, Eagles are in the top 3. This year, we ranked 27. And it shows. We got guys falling down. We got guys hurting themselves. And a big piece of that is that we were hoping Tyler Steen could step up in Mekhi Becton's place. And as good as he's been playing on that right side, we have a play caller that is predictable. We run the same plays over and over and over, and everybody knows it. So in order for us to win games this year, we're going to have an MVP performance out of Jalen Hurts week in and week out. Can we do it? Hell yeah. Dallas Goedert's a top 5 tight end. We have the best duo on the outside in the world. We have the weapons to do it. We have to figure it out. Jalen Carter, thank you so much for finally showing up to the game. He had a pressure that ended up in a pick. We need to get Jalen Carter going. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from this game is that Nakobe Dean is going to get a lot of money this summer, and it's not going to be from the Eagles, unfortunately. We're not going to be able to pay him. But for him to come in after an ACL tear and dominate the way he did, allowing us to put Jahad Campbell on the edge, because we've had a horrible production out of the edge rushers. We saw that with how he went and got Quinyon and Coop. He then had this mentality that he can turn any young guy into a stud. Jalix Hunt, I know he had a pick 6 that game, but he has been mediocre. Nolan Smith's been playing very well, but he's been hurt. We got a lot of guys in free agency that we just got on 1-year prove-it deals to think that they can come in and have the impact of a Josh Sweat, of a Milton Williams. We haven't had that impact yet. You know, we saw Zadarius Smith retire, and unfortunately, Kaz, I know you're here. I don't know how you feel about Brandon Graham coming back, but I absolutely hate that he's coming back and putting on pads. I think him coming and having a role in the defense, not as a player, brings a lot of energy. He's a guy that is a 2-time champion. Lane Johnson is a 2-time champion. So to have a guy like Brandon Graham in the room brings a lot of energy, brings a lot of confidence into that room. But Brandon Graham coming out of retirement tells me one thing. Nobody in the fucking world wants to help the Eagles. That means we couldn't get not one defensive end, one defensive tackle in the trade market because no one wants to help us win. Understandably so, when you're on top, people want to see you fall. So for us to have to revert to Brandon Graham, I don't know how this is going to play out. I'm knocking on wood. I'm praying every night that he gets to go out on not on top, but just gets to go out healthy, man. Like that was the biggest thing that he left saying, like, I'm happy that I walked away. Okay. And he's going to be able to give us a boost because we need that energy in that locker room. So I'm really looking forward to him being back. But as far as Carson Wentz go, man, it's time for JJ to come back. There was no one bigger than me that wanted him to kind of bring his career back to life. He now set a record for only quarterback in NFL history for 6 consecutive years to start on 6 different teams. We saw him come out here today. Shaun and I were talking about before the game, and basically a black arm cast. He's playing with one arm. This team has a lot to figure out. But taps off to the Eagles. We got a W, and now we get to play Jackson Dart again. So hopefully it's a different result than last time. Well, I'm hoping and praying coming into the league. A lot of quarterbacks can't do that. Brock Purdy. But, it's going to be something fun to see.
Yeah, and Kaz adds on Twitch, the Eagles play better when we are being attacked after a loss. I hope Nick Wright and Chris Sims and whoever takes the Giants to win this week. And then Kaz right. And then Kaz also adds on to what you were saying about Brandon Graham. He says, I want Graham just helps give the good guys proper rest and leadership. But you're right. And then one thing that Kaz added regarding the Vikings is, shit, around here, we have Vikings bars. My homeboys has Adam Thielen's phone number. They played together at MSU. I think that's pretty cool. And something I wanted to add from the unbiased perspective over here, not that everything you just said wasn't hitting the nail on the head, Kevin, but just from another perspective, is the Eagles defense has been elite this season, as it has been for years. And a stat that I found is the Eagles defense has only allowed 7 passing touchdowns, which is the second best in the league. Meanwhile, opposing quarterbacks are completing just 59.4% with a passer rating of 80.1, which is 4th lowest in the NFL. And this tweet also adds on, that's with Philly having played Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, and Baker Mayfield, 4 guys who all just so happen to be in the top 10 of the MVP race. And they add on, Vic Fangio is a mastermind. Shout out to @the Philly Special for that tidbit. And also something else to be noted is a lot of people like to say that the 49ers are all Christian McCaffrey. And the same could be said about the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. But yet the Eagles are 5-2, and Saquon Barkley has yet to surpass 100 rushing yards in a game this season. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's the more you know. And finally, with Jalen Hurts, when you compare him to the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFC East, when it comes to their last 500 pass attempts, Jalen Hurts is completing 70.2% of his passes for 4,060 yards, 29 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Dak Prescott, a little bit lower than that, 68%, 3,552 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Jaden Daniels, 65%, 3,430 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So about 500 less passing yards for Jaden Daniels, 5% less, same amount of touchdowns, 6 more interceptions, way less efficient. And then when it comes to Jackson Dart and the pace that he's on the pace to complete 60.2% of his passes, exactly 10% less than Jalen Hurts, which is a significant difference. 3,352 passing yards, which is about 650 yards, or 700 yards less than Jalen Hurts. He's on pace for 30 touchdowns, which would be one more than Jalen Hurts, but that's just what he's on pace for. And he's on pace for 13 interceptions. So it's like Jalen Hurts is putting up numbers and he's doing it in an efficient manner. It's like whatever people want to say about Jalen Hurts, the numbers just continue to prove them wrong time and time again. So whatever narrative people are trying to perpetuate when it comes to Jalen Hurts, he continues to prove them wrong, and the statistics back it up, because after all, this is stats over politics. So the Eagles, they look scary as ever. And Nick Bosa, Fred Warner aside, a team like the Eagles waiting for the 49ers later on in the postseason is another reason why I am not very confident to say that the 49ers are going to go on to win the Super Bowl this season. But as I said earlier, I'm just going to enjoy the ride for what it is. As
Before
we keep things moving,
Shaun, I wanted to come on
Go
here
ahead.
and congratulate the both of us. It took us 163 episodes for each of us to say something positive about the other person's team. 163 episodes. In that span, we have seen both of our teams go to the Super Bowl, lose, and then unhappily I was able to win one. But I don't think we've ever had this kind of dialogue. So, it shows maturity out of us, Shaun. I know in our early days, we were really spiteful, but, in our old days, we're showing a little bit of wisdom. I like that. We're improving.
We sure are. And thank you for pointing that out, because that's a good point. It's healthy. It's healthy is what it is.
And it's funny this episode without Toddy. Because Toddy will go to the grave before he'll say something nice about us. Like, if he would have been here, like, oh, Kevin, you're lying. You're going to hit us with some kind of crazy stat to prove us wrong. But it's nice to show that, we're growing up.
For sure. And I mean, over the previous 162 episodes, I have done my fair share of hating just as much as you have. And it's like, all right, let's save that. Like, the way my mindset is on it is like, let's save that for when it's necessary. If our teams are going to play in the regular season, if our teams are going to play in the playoffs, then all right, that week and the week after can just be balls to the wall, hate. Yeah, but like at this point, we've done enough of that. So it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. If the Eagles were stinking it up out there, I would let you know. And like we talked about the Eagles' loss against the Giants briefly last week when I was with Kaz, but he did most of the talking for me. And Kaz was a realist, and he shit all over the Eagles, deservingly so, after that poor performance on Thursday Night Football against the Giants. So there was nothing left for me to say. And so it's like, when it's appropriate, you will hate on the Niners, I'll hate on the Eagles, but there's no reason for us to be like digging just to try and find something to shit on. And so, yeah, I'm glad you. Yes, exactly. And thank you for pointing that out. And yeah, as you said, it's maturity. But before we move on, I just wanted to get to a couple more comments as Kaz adds on Twitch, if Hurts threw 30 plus a game, Hurts stats would be even crazier. But we are a run-heavy team because we have the best O-line in football. It's just the truth. Then Kaz adds on, You got QBs hitting 40 to 50 passes in games. Like, bruh, I bet Hurts is probably dead last in attempts.
Probably.
And that's another good point. And then Is Lee TV adds on with Twitch. Curious how many games it took each QB to hit this 500 pass attempts. Doesn't take away from Hurts being efficient. Just would be interesting to see the game's play difference. That's a great point from Lee as well on Twitch. Is for Jalen Hurts to get to those 500 passing attempts, it's probably 15, maybe 20 games versus a Dak Prescott. He's hitting that 500 pass attempts in like 10 games easily. Like Dak Prescott,
he might throw for 60 passes.
Exactly. And like Dak Prescott is putting up tremendous fantasy numbers right now, but it's because he's throwing 40 to 60 passes a game. And so that's a great point from Lee. And finally, Kevin, I don't know how you feel about this, but finally, Uncle Manny says on YouTube, Kevin, how about positive talk about the Cowboys?
Never. I'll go to the grave before I say something good about them. Y'all could win a Super Bowl for the next decade, and I'm going to find a way to come on here and say, fuck the Cowboys. Sean's going to show the graphic, and we're going to keep this ball rolling. I'm not that mature, Uncle Manny. I'm getting, you never know. But today, absolutely not. Never, nuh-uh. That's like Sean saying something good about the Rams. It's just your division rivals. You're always competing. No way, no how.
Yeah, gotta break out the tissues for Uncle Manny. And you spoke about the graphics, so I'll just put it on the screen for 5 seconds. Is Uncle Manny, you just gotta hope at this point that the Cowboys get to the point of getting to the playoffs, so then they can inevitably choke in the playoffs. But we'll have to wait and see. Cowboys forever catching strays, but we appreciate you for always tuning in, Uncle Manny, and being a loyal listener as we keep things moving here on episode 163 of Stats Over Politics. Sean Holko alongside Kevin Dent. Kevin, we just got through the 3 games that we're going to break down in depth, and so now it's time to recap Week 7 in the NFL. But before we do, I got to get to a couple other of relevant Twitch comments from Kaz as he says, Dak Prescott is, in all caps, just that, ... fantasy. And then Kaz also adds, Is Lee is a Cowboys fan. He is lurking. We are in enemy territory. Well, Isley, that is a good point that you brought up, though, because as we mentioned, Dak Prescott probably doing that in 10 games versus Jalen Hurts 15 to 20. So context matters. And Blue agrees with that as well, that, Dak Prescott, he's throwing 40 to 60 passes a game, and so that inflates his numbers. But, Kevin, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it with our Week 7 NFL recap. And if you could start us out, please. The Bengals shocked the Steelers 33 to 31. And the thing I'll add about this is that this game by itself is the reason why I flipped both of my Monday Night Football picks, because we all were wrong on this one. And so I was like, all right, let me give it a shot on Monday Night Football. And I went over 2.
This is the unk-off, is what Twitter called it. Aaron Rodgers versus Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco just went out there to show you all the Jamar Chase and Chase Brown and T. Higgins fantasy owners were excited because Joe Flacco turns shit into gold. And he did exactly that. Now, don't get me wrong. It takes a man, T. Higgins, to slide. Because, God damn it, we already suck. I'm getting the touchdown. But for them to put the confidence in Evan McPherson, who's been a great kicker throughout his years. I know last year he had a lot of bad hiccups, but for him to consistently been really, really good for this team, to have Joe Burrow on the sideline just brings a different energy to this team. The Pittsburgh Steelers, for them to score 3 passing touchdowns to all tight ends, just goes to show how good this team could be. Where this is a different kind of Mike Tomlin team. We're not used to them being so offensive heavy, putting up so many points. We're used to a lot of slugouts, but 33-31, Bengals get a W. It just goes to show that no matter who in the AFC North, they're going to find a way to get a W. These rivalry, these inter-division games, are always competitive.
They sure are. And the next game that I'm getting to is the Rams beating the Jaguars 35-7 in London. And I don't know about you, but I slept through this entire game. And when I woke up, I just saw the score and I was like, great, looks like I didn't miss much, especially as a 49ers fan who despises the Rams and did not want to wake up to see the Rams beat the brakes off the Jaguars, the team that beat the 49ers. All right, Devontae Adams. He had a bit of a resurgence in this game, catching 3 touchdowns from Matthew Stafford in a game that Puka Nacua sat out injured. And so that kind of scares me as a 49ers fan. If they're going to get Devontae Adams going and then re-add Puka Nacua in there, as long as Matthew Stafford stays healthy, I am a bit afraid of what the Rams might not only do in their second matchup against the 49ers in Santa Clara, but how the Rams might coast through the rest of this season, because context matters, as we were just talking about with Lee. But yeah, Brock Purdy played against the Jaguars at home. He came back too soon from a turf toe injury. He looked like shit. The 49ers had 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. But the Jaguars beat the 49ers on their home field. Then they play the Rams in neutral territory. The Jaguars, for all intents and purposes, are basically England's team because they've been over there so much over the last 10 to 15 years. I picked the Jaguars to win this game because I thought they have whatever type of home field advantage you can overseas, and yet the Rams beat the brakes off of them. So for me, this game kind of scared me when it comes to being a 49ers fan, looking at the Rams in our division, but also I kind of put the Jags on fraud alert after this game because they looked great against the 49ers, looked great against the Chiefs, and they haven't looked great since. So I'm still trying to figure out who this Jaguars team is. Kevin, speaking of the Chiefs, they shut out the Raiders 31-0.
Belt to ass. Next game. There's not a positive thing to say about them. To see Rashee Rice come back and score 2 touchdowns is great for this team. We talked about what this offense was going to be when they're all fully healthy, and this was a great example. But take it with a grain of salt because it is the Raiders. We talked about the Raiders probably not going to be better than the Cardinals. So belt to ass. Patrick Mahomes is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's showing the world why we say that.
Speaking of belt to ass, the Browns beat the Dolphins 31-6. Kevin, OH?
I-O.
Quinshon Judkins had himself his career best day in this one with 3 rushing touchdowns, and that was the positive for the Browns offensively. Then defensively, the Browns just completely smacked the Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa looked like absolute dog shit in this game. And then this past week, when he was being interviewed in a press conference, they asked him why he didn't target Jalen Waddle more, especially considering that Tyreek Hill is out for the season. And Tua said, yeah, sometimes you just can't see him. And he was talking about how his height was the reason why he couldn't see his receiver. Tua, did you forget that people were comparing you to Drew Brees coming into the NFL? And that's one of the reasons why you shouldn't have been picked number 1 overall, and why Joe Burrow was, or why Justin Herbert was taken right before you? I think, I always get it flipped. I know it was 5, 6, Herbert and Tua. It was Herbert first, and then okay, so there you go. And so Tua got picked before Justin Herbert. Then we see on Thursday Night Football why Justin Herbert got picked that high. And Tua basically at this point was all hype coming out of Alabama. Yes, he had to change his game because he can't scramble anymore for the sake of his future and his brain, that if he gets another concussion, not only could his NFL career be over, but his life could be dramatically different. And so I understand that he's not the same quarterback that he was at Alabama because of those restrictions, but Tua has looked terrible this year. The Dolphins in general have looked terrible. And I say this after every single Dolphins loss. Mike McDaniel, come on home. Come on back to Santa Clara. You don't need to go back to Denver, where you're from and where you grew up. You don't need to go anywhere else. Come on back to Santa Clara, Mike McDaniel. We would appreciate having you back. Get the band back together. We got Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniel. You can run the offense. Kyle Shanahan can just sit back and chill. And the last thing that I got to say about this one is that I went 4-1 in fantasy this week, a week after I went 5-0. I've been on a bit of a hot streak, but my one loss was because I decided to start Tua Tagovailoa instead of Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence finished with like 22 points. Tua finished with -3, and I lost my matchup by 24 points from that 25-point difference. Thank you, Tua, for ruining my perfect week. I appreciate you for that. Kevin, the third consecutive game that we have here with the winner finishing with 31 points as the Patriots beat the Titans 31-13.
A lot of people get Cam Ward shit for saying their ass. Their ass. This Patriots team is figuring it out. We gave a lot of credit to Mac Jones with his weapons and getting them to the playoffs. Stephon Diggs, Keyshawn Boutte, Pop Douglas, they're figuring out a way to get it done. The only thing that I'm going to scream at Patriots fans is, God damn it, let TreVeyon Henderson fucking run the ball. Please let him catch it, let him run it, let him do something. I don't get it. I don't get why you take him so high and you don't show him love. But yeah, man, this Patriots team is looking pretty good. For them to go and have a W over the Bills as well, they're going to be scary, especially because the rest of the division stinks with the Dolphins and the Jets. But it's going to be fun to see this season play out and see if they're able to win the division or not.
It will be really interesting to see if they're able to win the division. And the next game that I'm getting to is the Panthers beat the Jets 13-6. I don't really know what to think about this one. I mean, the Panthers, they're looking solid. The Panthers are 4-3 now, but the Jets are the Jets. They're the last winless team in the NFL. Now they are 0-7. But Bryce Young, he was pretty pedestrian in this game. 15 of 25 for 138 yards and a touchdown. But good news for him is that Tyrod Taylor started the second half, and Justin Fields did not look much better in the first half. And while I will forever be the proud president of the Justin Fields fan club, all of our members are slowly fading out, and I am about to be left alone. Like, the way that I'm feeling in the Justin Fields fan club right now is how Will Smith felt in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when they moved out of the house, and he's just standing there in the empty living room. He's like, where did everybody go? That's how I'm feeling in the Justin Fields fan club right now. But I will stand 10 toes down and be alone in the Justin Fields fan club forever, because that's my guy. I'm going to stick by him. As Kevin, the Bears beat the Saints 26-14. I wish Toddy was here to talk about this one, because his Bears have won 4 games in a row.
You know, you got to take with a grain of salt. It is the Saints. They've been real high and low. It's been a roller coaster season for them. But like, we got to give credit to the Bears for them to dominate on the run game with both Swift and Mongello. I probably butchered his name. But they're getting it done. They're figuring out a way to win games, offensively, defensively. And it kind of makes you think, you know, what kind of conversations they would be in if they didn't shit the bed week 1 against the Vikings. So the Bears are going to be a really good team. That division's really fucking loaded. We talk about the best divisions in football. That division's definitely up there as well. The Packers are playing very well. The Lions are the Lions. And then you have the Bears. So this division is very good. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see, you know, how they play when they play each other. But Caleb Williams, we said a lot of shit about you, and you're backing it up. So keep throwing the ball to Romo Dunze, because I have him on my fantasy team. So I love it.
The Colts beat the Chargers 38-24, and the Colts, if you told me 7 weeks ago that the Colts would be the best team in the NFL almost halfway through the season, I would have told you that you were absolutely crazy. I would have said it's not 2009 anymore. Peyton Manning is not walking through that door. They got Daniel Jones, a.k.a. Danny Dimes, who has become a cult legend in Indianapolis as Indiana Jones, so much so that Kevin and I began negotiations today in our Stats Over Politics Fantasy League, because Daniel Jones is his backup quarterback, and I've had Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy both getting hurt, and so I'm desperate for a quarterback. And so Daniel Jones might become a member of my fantasy team soon if I can work out a deal. And Jonathan Taylor, he is proving that he is definitely a top 5 running back in the NFL, and he's making a case for that top 3. I'm going to flip the hat around, because you guys know who I think the best running back in the NFL is. It's Christian McCaffrey, but Jonathan Taylor, with his 3 touchdowns against the Chargers, he is making a case to be the second best, maybe third best running back in the NFL. That's to be debated another day, but Colts are 6-1, and they're looking legit. It's just a matter of what they will do when they get to the playoffs, because it seems like they're starting to become a lock. to get to the postseason. And Kevin, the next game, you were talking just about the NFC North in your last game, talking about the Bears, but a team that a lot of people think will either win the NFC North or they will get a wild card spot is the Packers, who somehow, some way were in a tough game with the Cardinals, and they snuck by them 27-23 in last-second fashion.
Jacoby Brissett, we were just talking about if he's the quarterback, we're not taking them to win games. But he went out there, 25 of 36, 279 yards with 2 touchdowns. Trey McBride found the end zone twice. This Cardinals team, I came into the season saying that this is Kyler's prove-it year. I think Kyler has one more year before they try to ship him and kind of just restart. If we're going to have another top pick, we're not going to continue to get weapons around this guy. We're going to draft another quarterback. But the Packers find a way to keep sliding by and winning games. Josh Jacobs, 2 touchdowns. Micah Parsons with 3 sacks. This is why you traded Micah Parsons, made him the highest paid defensive player in the NFL because of games like this. He's a game changer. And once this Packers team gets healthy, they're going to be really scary. When I mean healthy, I mean with the receiving core, Jalen Reed and Christian Watson coming back. But this Packers team is legit. Ever since Toddy said they're the best team in the NFL, they've been ass since. But, they're going to find ways to win games because you pay for guys like Micah Parsons, a game changer. Like I said, 3 sacks. Taps off to the Packers. See you guys in a couple weeks.
The Cowboys absolutely shocked me by doubling up the Commanders 44-22. I did not expect this at all. Yes, it is important to note that Jaden Daniels got hurt in this game, and then Marcus Mariota made an appearance, but I wasn't watching this game closely, but I'm pretty sure that the Cowboys were already winning when Jaden Daniels got hurt in this game. Yeah, and then they go on to win 44-22. They didn't just sneak by them. As Kevin is indicating right now for the audio-only listeners, it was belt to ass. And I don't know what to think about this Commanders team. Last year, getting to the NFC Championship game, I thought for sure that they would at least get back to the playoffs this season. I didn't think that they would necessarily repeat that because there are a lot of talented teams in the NFC. But right now, the Commanders are kind of teetering towards missing the playoffs, and it's really all dependent on the health of Jaden Daniels, and he's already been ruled out for this upcoming week, and so the Commanders could easily fall out of the playoff race, and it's just kind of sad given the huge leap that they made last year. I remember after they lost in the NFC Championship game, Kevin, I think you told me that your cousin is a Commanders fan, and so I'm sorry for them that they have kind of fallen off a cliff when it comes to Washington. That they're now 3-4. They're a half game behind the Cowboys, who are 3-3-1. We talked about that disgusting tie on their record earlier in the podcast, but the Commanders are still in the thick of things. But that game in Dallas did not look good at all. And now getting to our final 2 games, that brought us to Monday night. Kevin, if you could talk about the first one, as the Lions beat the Buccaneers 24-9.
Baker Mayfield has been able to get it done with guys like Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard, and this game, it just showed it was too much. The Lions were able to make plays defensively. We talked about the Niners having backups. The Lions' defense is filled with backups. So for them to come out here and get this W against a team that arguably has the MVP quarterback on their team, Baker Mayfield has been playing great. So when they got down early, I'm sure just like everybody else, Alvin included, I thought Baker Mayfield was going to pull off some Baker magic. And unfortunately, still he made a run out of magic. RIP to Mike Evans. He's not dead. Let me not say RIP. But he might be done for the season with a broken collarbone coming off of missing 3 games with a hamstring. But for those of you that have Emeka Ibuka, just more and more great games for him, and we're going to have to see what this Bucs team looks like.
Yeah, and when it comes to the final Monday Night Football game, the Seahawks beat the Texans 27-19, and so they end up winning by 1 possession, but it really wasn't that close. The Seahawks got out to I believe it was a 14-0 lead after the first quarter. Then the Texans cut it to 14-6 at halftime, and that was like the Seahawks had dominated the entire first half, and so for them to only lead by 1 possession going into halftime was okay, what is going on here? But the Seahawks ultimately pull away in this one. And man, CJ Stroud, Kaz said earlier, because I did it like 3 times, he said, if y'all don't stop with this OHIO mess every damn time, well, Kaz, this is a somber OHIO because CJ Stroud, he just hasn't looked the same since his rookie season. And I understand that the players around him matter and that he is missing 2 of his top targets. Joe Mixon, a guy that we were discussing in our fantasy trade negotiations, he was supposed to come back mid-season, and now it's like, when is he going to come back? And so the Texans, they need to get their reinforcements back. But CJ Stroud, I think on this podcast, we said that he was at least a top 10 quarterback in the NFL already. Maybe even, I think it was Toddy who said that he may be even in that top 5 discussion already after his rookie season. Then he proceeded to have a sophomore slump, and it hasn't gotten much better in his third season. I still think that he is an NFL starter for sure, but man, I just feel bad for Coleridge Bernard because I want to see him get back to being that guy that had a phenomenal rookie season and that should have led the Ohio State Buckeyes to a national championship if the kicker didn't shank a field goal on New Year's Eve against Georgia in the semifinals. Ohio State would have won a national championship that year, but thankfully they made up for it in 2025. But on CJ Stroud's collegiate resume, it'll always say that he lost to Michigan multiple times and he didn't get the job done later in the season. And so I just hope that he's able to have some more success in the NFL because he's not only a great player, but he seems to be a great guy from everything I can see. And I'm just hoping the best for CJ Stroud. And the Texans, it seems clear that they're not going to win the AFC South this year because that's going to go to the Colts. So they have to sneak in as a wild card, and it's a crowded race for those 3 wild card spots. So it's looking like the Texans and D'Amico Ryans are headed towards a season without the postseason, but we shall wait and see. And finally, Kevin, before we get to our last segment, Isley taps in on Twitch and says, CJ Stroud is the shining example of why I go with the show me twice method before I crown a player top 5 to top 10. I would hate to disagree, or I wish I could disagree with you, but yeah, that's looking like a fact right there. Kevin, I didn't hear what you said. What did you add there?
It's hard not to disagree with that. We put him in conversations too early, and now look at him.
Yeah, just makes me sad as an Ohio State fan, but there's still plenty of time. And speaking of plenty of time, we only got about 5 to 10 minutes left, but if you could, please bring us to our final segment here on episode 163.
We are back with another This or That segment. We've been talking about this guy a lot this episode, so I figured it's the right time to bring it up. We're going to do a This or That Drake Maye edition. Shaun, first name up. Drake Maye. I'm sorry, not Drake Maye. Let's restart that for clip purposes. We have a This or That Drake Maye edition. Shaun, first name up, Jared Goff.
Drake Maye.
I'm going to go Drake Maye as well. I know Jared Goff has the better team, but you switch them spots. I think the production is the same, and Drake Maye can run the ball a little bit. Next name.
A little bit of analysis I want to add to that too is Jared Goff is a bona fide game manager versus Drake Maye is an athlete.
Definitely, 100%. Next name, Sam Darnold.
Ooh. Drake Maye.
I'm going to go Sam Darnold because we've seen this guy in the playoffs. He's going to go for another second year in a row. We just haven't seen enough Drake Maye yet. Talent-wise, it's definitely Drake Maye, but right now, Sam Darnold is leading one of the best offenses in the world. Yes, I know it has a lot to do with JSN, and Drake Maye doesn't have a JSN, but he's throwing to guys like Keyshawn Butte, so it's very, very close, but I'm going to lead Sam Darnold. Next name, Bo Nix.
Ooh, this is a tough one. I think because of potential, I'm going to go with Drake Maye, but both of these guys got drafted last year, and they both have long NFL careers ahead of them.
I'm going to go Drake Maye as well. We've seen him. I get it. Bo Nix has a Hall of Fame coach in Sean Payton calling up plays for him, but Drake Maye is getting it done. I said this over and over. Stephon Diggs, that's old. Everyone thought he was washed coming off an Achilles. You have Keyshawn Butte, Pop Douglas. He's finding a way to get it done week in after week. Next name, Daniel Jones.
Ooh, Indiana Jones. I think this has been unanimous for me so far. I'm sticking with Drake Maye.
I'm gonna go Drake Maye as well. I get it. Indiana Jones is balling his ass out, but quarterback for quarterback. The way I pick it for this scenario is if you switch teams, will the production be the same? I don't know if I can say that in him in Patriots, but Drake Maye for the Colts, Drake Maye and Jonathan Taylor. Oh my goodness. Next name, Kyler Murray.
Oh, this is easy. Kyler Murray should have played baseball for the A's after they drafted him 9th overall. Give me Drake Maye.
I'm going to go Drake Maye as well. Last name, you see it on Sean's hat.
Oh, I knew you were going to do this.
Brock Purdy.
Drake Maye got drafted 3rd overall. Brock Purdy got drafted last.
Don't be a cop-out. Don't let that be your reasoning why.
I'm taking Brock Purdy because he has shown me more to this point in his NFL career. If they started at the same point and we got to see like a parallel timeline of statistics and production, then I may lean Drake Maye, but I've just seen more from Brock Purdy. I don't want to get into the winning statistic because Jimmy Garoppolo got me in trouble with that in the past, but I believe that Brock Purdy, and I'm ending the unanimous streak that I have here for Drake Maye. I'm taking Brock Purdy over Drake Maye.
I got to stay consistent. The way I'm basing this, if we switch teams, will the production be the same? I'm going to go Drake Maye because if you switch them, I think the production is the same, if not better. We've seen guys like Mac Jones be able to go in there and play really well, like Sean mentioned, and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Drake Maye is better than all 3 of those guys. Now, will the production be as good in New England with Brock Purdy? I guess we'll never know. We'll never know about Drake Maye in San Francisco, but I'm going to go Drake Maye because, yes, we've seen more of a sample size from Brock Purdy, but for Drake Maye to have the New England Patriots out, if not first, second in the AFC East, no one would have thought the Patriots would have done that if the quarterback's not named Tom Brady. With everything stacked against him, he's finding a way to win week in after week out. So I'm going to go Drake Maye. And that concludes the This or That segment, Drake Maye edition.
Yeah, and just to get a couple of Twitch comments in here real quickly, Kaz says, give me Bo. I've seen it more over Drake Maye. Isley says Drake over Bo Easy. Kaz says Drake Maye the fuck over Jones. Boy, Kyler? LMAO. But then Isley and Kaz, they agree. Drake Maye over Purdy. But Kaz does see my point as he says Sean's take is relevant, though. Purdy been to the, in all caps, big games and produced. And so we'll leave it there. Kevin, any closing thoughts here for episode 163?
No, sir. Be on the lookout for some NBA podcasts. The NBA did start up this week, so we will be coming out with 2 episodes a week. Sticking to Mondays for football, we will finalize an NBA schedule, but just keep a lookout. Turn those notifications on, so when we do go live on random days like a Thursday, you're able to tune in.
Yes, sir. I can't wait to see the NBA content starting to get pumped out. Basketball is my favorite sport, and I am so happy that it's back. Got the NBA back on NBC, which that broadcast was just absolutely spectacular. And the Kangs are the Kangs as they have a 20-point lead in Phoenix, and they somehow find a way to lose that game, unfortunately. And that's not even mentioning all the betting scandals that came to surface in the NBA today, Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. So we will get into that in future episodes of Stats Over Politics. But it's time to go. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us a lot. And if you enjoyed the podcast, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on X at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying the show, give us those 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you guys have been tuned in to episode 163 of Stats Over Politics. For my guys, Jaevon Toddy, Kevin Dent, Kaz Johnson, Alex Dent, and Gary Singh, I've been your host, Sean Holko. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week on another episode of Stats Over Politics.